Part 80. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 791. Chapter 791, A Sudden Disaster. The two dead men today changed their faces, pretending to be the mother-in-law of the Zheng family and the maid of the Chu family. They must explain the matter to the two of them now, otherwise the two will find that their slaves are missing when they go home, and they may cause trouble if they make a fuss. Li Laoer is good at communication. He did not go around the bush at this moment and said directly to the two of them, "Brother Zheng, Brother Chu, we are busy at home today and some small things happened. I plan to talk to you, so I will delay your return for a while." Mr. Zheng and Mr. Chu were confused and didn't understand what the little things of the Li family had to do with them. But the two of them still nodded. Master Zheng said, "Uncle, if you have anything to say, feel free to say it." Li Laoer said, "Today, a woman from Brother Zheng's family sneaked into the kitchen courtyard and wanted to poison the soup pot. A maid in Brother Chu's family brought a ring that can shoot poisonous needles, and wanted to murder the princess." What? Mr. Zheng and Mr. Chu stood up in horror at the same time, almost knocking over the tea bowls in their hands. "Impossible," Master Zheng was the first to retort, "my uncle and I have no enmity and have never instigated anyone to poison." Yuan Chu also waved his hands wildly and explained, "That's right. Zhensheng and I have been friends for many years and have always gotten along very well. How could he possibly murder the princess?" Li Laoer quickly comforted Mr. Zheng, "Brother Zheng, don't worry, I haven't finished speaking yet." Li Zhensheng also took Mr. Chu to sit down outside and advised, "Brother Chu, please be patient and listen a few more words." Even though Master Zheng and Yuan Chu sat down, they were still worried. Their families are not without foundation, but they are still far behind compared to today's Li family. Whether it is the Holy Family or power and fame, the Li family is superior. If the Li family determines that they were responsible for the murder, then the life of the two families will definitely be difficult in the future. Li Laoer saw that they looked bad and said quickly, "I asked someone to check it. The woman and the maid were both fake. In other words, the slaves in your house are probably in bad shape. We will find out who killed our family, but we also ask you two to help cover it up after you go back and don't make too much noise." Disguised as a fake? Mr. Zheng and Mr. Chu breathed a sigh of relief at that time, and the cold sweat on their backs stopped. "As long as you don't really have an enmity with the Li family, that's fine." Mr. Zheng was the first to express his opinion, "Don't worry, uncle, in the final analysis, this matter was caused by our family's carelessness and someone took advantage of it, which almost caused trouble for your house. When I get back, I will handle it properly so that no one will be suspicious and I won't make too much noise." Yu Yuan immediately expressed his opinion, "Me too, uncle, don't worry." Li Zhensheng smiled and held his hands in his hands, thanked him, and said one more word, "Our family has not investigated clearly yet, and we don't know who is behind such a complicated plan. Therefore, I would like to ask you two to help keep it secret. When the matter is over, I will hold a banquet to apologize to you two. After all, it is because of our family that we let you bother." "No, no, YuanY is too polite," Mr. Zheng and Chu YuanY said in unison. In fact, the two of them were not happy about such an unexpected disaster. But the Li family was so polite, and the little discomfort in their hearts disappeared. After chatting for a few more words, the two of them left. There must have been someone watching outside the door. The two of them went out one after another. Their walking was not smooth. Anyone who saw them thought they were delayed for a while because they drank too much. Sure enough, their wife at home was sitting in the carriage frowning. Ms. Zheng has a cold and solemn temperament, and her relationship with Mr. Zheng is not very good. She ordered the carriage to leave without saying anything. Ms. Chu, on the other hand, had a soft temper and relied on her husband in everything. She finally looked forward to the master's return, and hurriedly said, "Master, one of the maids I brought here is missing. What can we do about this? Do you want to talk to the Li family and ask someone to help? Look for it to see if it fell into the water, or if it was secretly drunk and slept somewhere." Mr. Chu waved his hands, pretended to be impatient, and said in a rough voice, "If you lose a slave, just throw it away. Why are you so anxious? Maybe you went somewhere to be lazy, and you will come back later. Go home quickly. I drank a few too many glasses and my head hurts. Make me a bowl of hangover soup." Mrs. Chu didn't dare to say anything more, so she quickly took care of her husband and went home. The carriages in front of the Earl's palace were cleared one after another, and a vendor selling groceries on the street corner finally cleaned up his stall. The dishes at noon were very rich, but in order to entertain the guests, the young and old of the Li family did not eat well. At this time, Shui Yun cooked some small wontons, and everyone had a bowl. After eating, they felt warm in the stomach, and they felt a little energetic. Mrs. Li had been entertaining guests in the house. She didn't know that someone was causing trouble today, so she asked, "Where are Zhensheng, Lauer and Jiaran? Are they drunk too much?" Tao Hongying and Zhao Yuru didn't know what to say to the old lady, so they looked at the good news. In Jiyan's heart, Grandma is an extremely reliable mountain. She has never experienced any big storms. How could she be scared by such a small thing today? So she said directly, "Grandma, there are indeed bad people coming to cause trouble today. One was about to poison the soup, but the second sister-in-law knocked her out and caught her with a lot of effort. Unfortunately, she committed suicide by taking the poison. One took advantage of the opportunity when I was alone to take action, so I sprinkled a handful of powder and caught him alive." "What?" Mrs. Li was startled. Just now she was thinking that today's banquet went smoothly, but she never imagined that there were so many things behind it. Mrs. Wen and Wanner also changed their expressions. Tao Hongying only knew what happened in the kitchen, but she didn't know that there was a maid who almost made a move on her daughter. She pulled her daughter into her arms and looked at her carefully. "Fu Niuer, are you hurt?" Jiyan quickly shook his head and comforted his mother. "Mom, don't worry, Shui Ling was also there at the time, and I didn't hurt a hair." At this time, Li Zhensheng, Li Laoer, Li Laosan, Mr. Wen, and brothers Jiar and Jiawen all came in from outside. Seeing everyone looking at them, their faces full of anxiety, they obviously knew that someone was coming to cause trouble, and there was no need for them to hide it. Li Laoer said, "The two women and maids were replaced by disguises. The real women and maids may have been killed. I told their masters. In addition, the maid that Fu Niuer took the risk to capture was also sent back to the village. We will go back in a while, and the miracle Dr. Zhang is here, so I think she can get a lot of useful information." Li Zhensheng also said, "I would like to hear why you want to be so cruel to our family and Fu Niuer." The more Mrs. Li thought about it, the more flustered she became. She had made many arrangements at home in the past few days, but someone still sneaked in. It was poisoning, and it was done in person. No matter which one succeeded, it would be a disaster for the Li family. It is too unsafe in the city, so it is better to go to the village. Hundreds of villagers gather together, and anyone who wants to take action has to think about it. Especially now that the family consists of old and young people, with women and children accounting for more than half. If someone comes to the door at night to cause trouble, he will be concerned about one thing and not the other, and everyone will feel sad if he is hurt. Let's go home. Let's all go back to Sujintan together. It's not comfortable to live in the city. The wedding banquets have been finished, and there's nothing else to do. Mrs. Li immediately started organizing. The sun has not yet set outside, so it is not too late to set off at this time. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 792. Chapter 792 A golden nest and a silver nest are not as good as your own straw nest. Li Zhensheng and Li Lao didn't stop them either. Once the old mother wants to live wherever she wants, they are happy as long as the place is comfortable. Secondly, there is a patrol team in the village and there are fellow villagers who share will and woe, so the safety of the family is indeed more guaranteed. Tao Hongying, Zhao Yuru, and others have no objections. Earl's palace is well built, but it is not as comfortable as the village. So, within half an hour, everyone got on the carriage and returned to the village. In Sujintan New Village, the young and old in the village are also not used to it. They have been living here with the Li family for several years, and this is the first time that the Li family's yard has been so empty. Everyone passing by couldn't help but glance at the closed door of the Li family's courtyard, feeling filled with panic. But it seems like a lot of things are missing, and I feel a little uneasy. So, when everyone heard that the Li family's motorcade was back, and the old lady, uncle, and princess were all back, almost all the men, women, and children from every household in the village ran out and happily went to the village entrance to greet them. "Old madam, you are back, you are not at home." Everyone feels that life has no backbone. "Yes, old lady, the city is not as quiet and comfortable as our village." "Fourth madam, someone from the workshop has ordered a lot of noodles and is waiting for you to arrange errands." "Princess, there seems to be a girl at the medicine shop who boiled the blind medicine soup, and we have been smelling it for a whole day." Everyone was talking about the trivial events in the village during the past 2 days. There are good and bad things, but the conclusion and purpose are the same. The village cannot survive without the Li family. It would be best if the young and old of the Li family don't go out anymore, and everyone can stay together and live happily. Old Mrs. Li was also very happy and said, "Hey, a golden nest and a silver nest are not as good as your own doghouse. The city is lively, but it is not as comfortable as our own home. Don't worry, just do whatever you need to do. I won't go into the city unless there's something big going on." Everyone was not embarrassed when their little thoughts were revealed, and they smiled and helped to move things. Tao Hongying took the initiative and distributed the snacks brought back from the city to the villagers, coaxing everyone to go home happily. The village chief, Uncle Zhao, and Lu Biatu and others had just picked up the maid sent back from the city, so they naturally knew that something had happened to today's wedding banquet. So, after the crowd dispersed, they entered the Li family courtyard. Jie Huan was worried about the cyclamen business and went back to take charge. Li Laosan also returned to Luoan Academy to guard against someone plotting against the canteen. Li Zhensheng, Jiaran, and brother Li were the only ones left at home to accompany the guests. Li Lao went to the Dr. Zhang, intending to pry some news out of the maid's mouth. Jiyan wanted to go with her second uncle, but was pulled back by Mrs. "You are a girl, so don't get involved in these things. It's not like you don't have uncles and brothers in your family. There is no good news, so I can only wash up and change clothes honestly. Time is really a magical thing." In just 2 years, the little chubby girl grew into a cardamom girl. Jiyan took a bath, changed into a set of goose yellow clothes, tied a palm-wide emerald green belt, and put on a milky white mutton fat jade ring, which made her graceful and graceful. Hair is simply braided with pearl ribbons, most of it is tied up, with 2 strands hanging down, and pearl pendants of the same color are worn on the ears. They sway around when walking, looking smart and lively. She already had picturesque features and a graceful temperament. After tidying up, she ran to see the old lady, but the old lady was very surprised and praised her repeatedly. "My Fu Niu is so beautiful. In a few years, no girl from Tianwu will be as good as our Fu Niu." Tao Hongying was also proud of how outstanding her daughter was. She smiled and pulled her daughter close to her and helped her adjust her skirt. "When my daughter was a child, she was surrounded by people who doted on her at home and outside." Tao Hongying was afraid that her daughter would be arrogant and overbearing, so she would occasionally suppress her. Now that my daughter has grown up, is smart, sensible, filial and generous, she can breathe a sigh of relief and feel free to join the army of pamperers. She asked, "You haven't slept well these past few days, and your face has lost weight. In the evening, mother will make you some bird's nest porridge, drink it before going to bed." Jian pinched her double chin and responded helplessly. "There is a kind of skinny cry in the world. Your mother thinks you have lost weight." The more Mrs. Li looked at her granddaughter, the happier she became and encouraged her. "Fu Niuer, why do you hide those jewelry so tightly? You're not afraid of being picked up by mice from now on. Wear them all for me, wear them as elegantly as you want. Don't dress modestly, a little girl should dress brightly and lively, it makes you happy to look at her." "Okay, I listen to grandma. From now on, I will wear all those jewelry, and then there will always be 4 maids following me." Jian smiled and hugged grandma's arm, agreeing happily. Mrs. Li was curious and asked, "Why do you bring so many maids?" Jian raised her chin and looked like her neck was overwhelmed. "I have so many hairpins, and I must have them on my head like a hedgehog. I was walking in front and something fell down, and the maid kept following me and picking it up. How could it happen if there were so few people?" Mrs. Li, Tao Hongying, and others were stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter. Jian's description was so vivid that they couldn't stop laughing just thinking about having their heads stuck like hedgehogs. "Ouch, ouch, my stomach hurts, this girl is so naughty, she made me laugh so hard." Mrs. Li rubbed her belly, then pulled her granddaughter into her arms, loving her dearly. Zhao Yuru also laughed with her cheeks sore, and said while rubbing it, "In our family, anyone can go out, but Fu Niuer must be around. If she leaves home, our life will be too boring. Then let's recruit a husband-in-law." Mrs. Li waved her hand. "Fu Niuer is the princess, and she also has her own fiefdom and princess mansion. It's not difficult to find a husband-in-law." Wan'er was holding a bowl of red date tea and drinking it. At this moment, Yuan was sent back to sleep, and it was rare for her to relax for a while. So, she smiled and interjected, "Grandma is right. In general, the eldest son has to inherit the family business, and the teachings are very rigid and serious. On the other hand, the second sons of each family are very smart and flexible. When we choose the good ones, we should inquire about the details early and wait for a few more years. If the person is really of good character, it's not too late to discuss the marriage. My younger sister is only in her early teens, so it's still early to get engaged." Wan'er is right. If you go out again and see a good boy, everyone should pay attention. Mrs. Li really took this into consideration and began to assign tasks to everyone. Everyone couldn't help but laugh, but they should also be happy. Tao Hongying, in particular, has made up her mind to go out to socialize more in the future. In fact, most people who love their daughters have always looked at each other early on, fearing that they might look the wrong way and wrong their daughter for the rest of her life. Our company is 4 or 5 years ahead of schedule, which is a bit exaggerated, but it is understandable. Who let the whole family live with just one baby? The village chief and others sat together drinking tea, also listening with smiles. They had no say in the princess's marriage affairs, and they had no good candidates to recommend, but they could support the princess. Whether it's getting married or having a wife, no one can bully their own princess. Everyone was talking about the excitement, and it lasted for half an hour before I knew it. And Li Lauer also came back from Dr. Zhang, with a face so cold that it looked like he could shave off 2 ounces of frost. Everyone subconsciously stopped laughing. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 793. Chapter 793 is so ridiculous. Mr. Wen and his wife were also thinking about it, so they went home and gave the crescent moon as a gift. They changed into homely clothes and came over to see her again. The crowd asked the couple to sit down. Li Zhensheng was the first to ask, "How's it going, second brother? Did you ask anything?" Li Laoer opened his mouth, but felt that his throat was extremely dry. He snatched the tea bowl from his elder brother's hand, drank it all, and then looked at his niece. The cardamom girl is the most innocent and beautiful age in her life. As long as he thinks about someone wanting, he will go crazy with hate. "Second brother, are you talking?" Li Zhensheng urged him when he saw that his brother was silent. Mrs. Li also said, "Yes, tell me what's going on. Is it that the maid refuses to confess? Isn't there anything Dr. Zhang can do?" Tao Hongying was also anxious, and subconsciously stretched out a hand to keep her daughter back. Li Laoer thought for a while and said, "The maid opened her mouth and asked for some news. She and the woman who poisoned the kitchen are both dead soldiers, and the head of the family is the Wu family of Jiangning Haofu. They took action this time under the orders of the Lord of Jiangning Haofu. Before, we also speculated that the Jiangning Marquis mansion was going to be detrimental to Fu Niuer. Now that it is confirmed, it will be easy to deal with it." Li Zhensheng frowned and asked again, "Why is the Wu family trying to harm our family, or why? Do you want to harm Fu Niuer?" Li Laoer took a deep breath and said, "The order given to the dead man is to kidnap Fu Niuer and send her to the Wu family. If she cannot be captured alive, then, put a bowl of blood in her heart and send her back to the Wu family. It is said that the queen must take Fu Niuer's blood in order to become pregnant and give birth to a child." A heartache. Pregnant and giving birth. Everyone was stunned for a long time, and they all suspected that they heard wrongly. How cruel and ridiculous this is. These beasts. "They are going to kill my sister." Brother Cat, who had been sitting at the door with his brothers, was the first to jump up and was about to rush out with red eyes. Jiaran and Brother Li pulled him away. Jiaran yelled with red eyes, "Don't run around, listen to the family's arrangements." Li Zhensheng grabbed the tea bowl in his hand and smashed it into pieces. He stood up suddenly and cursed, "It's really too much. The Wu family is so bold that they dare to attack our children of the Li family. If we can't destroy the Wu family this time and make the queen pay the price, I, Li Zhensheng, will crash to death in front of the palace gate. No, I'll go too." Old Mrs. Li stood up holding the square table, her face was pale and her lips were trembling with anger. "I want to enter the palace, and I want to ask the emperor, aren't the things our Li family has done for Tianwu over the years not enough to keep Fu Niuer safe and alive? Her father and her brothers are working hard outside right now. Our Li family doesn't ask to be rich or tyrannical, but we have to keep a little girl safe. Why is it so difficult? If the emperor doesn't care, let's go. Let's go into the mountains and live in caves. There are wolves, tigers, and leopards in the mountains, but here in Zindu there are also wolves in human skins. Our Li family doesn't want to serve us anymore. We can't live in the mountains, so let's go to Fanbang to find an GEER and 11 GEER. Old Mrs. Li is really chilled. The Li family dare not say how much they have contributed to Tianwu, but at least they are loyal and dedicated. As a result, the queen and the Wu family were so arrogant and blatantly wanted to tear out the heart of the Li family. Tao Hongying wanted to speak, but as soon as she opened her mouth, tears fell down. She hugged her daughter tightly, and it took a long time before she choked up and uttered a few words. "Fu Niuer, mother is wrong." Yes, she was wrong. She is originally a farm woman. If she is more diligent and more aggressive, she is already very qualified. In the past few years in Zindu, my family has lived a prosperous life. The old lady is in charge at home, my uncle is an official outside, my husband is a general, and even my daughter is a princess, and she has a marquis as her backer. She just allowed herself to be lazy, thinking that she would be fine if she took care of the food, drinks, and clothing for the family and thought about the menu in her spare time. But she didn't expect that someone would actually cut out her daughter's heart for a ridiculous reason. Good news also makes my head rumbling with anger. After all, anyone who suddenly hears that someone wants to drink his heart's blood will be furious. Who is she provoking? She wants to gouge out the heart. Jiyan thought of 10,000 ways to take revenge in an instant, and wanted to crush the young and old of the Wu family and the queen to death right away. But soon, she came back to her senses. Because her mother hugged her too hard, she was out of breath. "Mom, don't be afraid, I'm fine, at least I'm still alive and kicking, and our family also knows who is going to attack me, so it's easy to handle." She quickly patted her mother, then grabbed her grandma's cold hand and continued to comfort her. "Grandma, don't worry. This matter doesn't depend on our family. I have ways to protect myself and even take revenge." Unfortunately, before she finished speaking, the old lady guessed what she meant. The old lady interrupted her directly, "No. There are so many people in the family, there is no need for you to come up with your own ideas at any time, just stay at home." The old lady was afraid that her granddaughter would lose her temper and show off her magical abilities in front of outsiders when she was angry. "Even if you take revenge, you will be treated as a monster in the end, which will not end well." The old lady is right. Lu Biatu also stood up and said, "There are so many folks and so many people in the village. If we can't save the princess, then everyone will really have no shame in living." The village chief and Uncle Zhao also stood up in excitement. The village chief shouted with a dark face, "We people can live to this day without seeing any danger or suffering any hardship. It makes no sense that life is so easy now, with no shortage of money or people, but we have to watch people bully our children." Zhao Yuru, Wan'er, and Wenjuan didn't know what to say. The three of them walked up to Jiyan with weak legs and surrounded her tightly. Zhao Yuru was still unwilling to give in and asked, "Eldest brother, second brother, can't you bring this matter to the emperor?" Li Zhensheng and Li Lao'er both shook their heads. Li Lao'er said, "We are all guessing now, except for the testimony of a little maid, there is no strong evidence. Even if we bring the little maid to complain, the Wu family and the queen will say that we framed the case after all. The queen is the mother of the country, and a single major disrespectful crime can make our family's achievements fall short. What's more, there are still many details in this matter that have not been clarified. I suspect that the queen and the Wu family were used as knives by others, and there are actually other people who are harmful to our family. Even if our family takes down the Wu family and the queen, the people behind them will still be unharmed and will still target our family." At this time, Zheng He hurried back and reported as diligently as he could. "Uncle, we have found out the information the rumors spread about the princess were indeed the work of the Wang family. Moreover, Shaoqing Chuheng, Yuan Weilang Zhangjian, merchant Lu family, and several distant relatives of the Wang family all got involved and added fuel to the flames." Shaoqing Chuheng? Yuan Weilang Zhangjian? The Lu family of merchants. Everyone was confused when they heard this. They didn't understand where these people came from and why they followed the Wang family to target the Li family. Li Lao'er frowned and opened his mouth to explain to everyone. "When I was first named uncle, this Chu Hung and Zhang Jian once lured me to drink flower wine. Moreover, they are two lackeys of the Wang family, taking orders from Wang Lao-san." Jiaran also said, "The businessman Liu's family should be the home of my former classmate Lu Kuei. That time he and Wang Sheng played tricks in the wooden signboard to ruin my scientific examination. In the end, I was expelled from the college and harbored a grudge." End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 794. Chapter 794, The drunkard's intention is not the wine. Everyone was stunned and sneered. When we saw someone attacking our family, we all started kicking them. Isn't that right? I look honest on weekdays, but I show my fangs at critical moments. This is forcing our family. If anything happens in the future, we must eradicate it. We must not be merciful. Li Zhensheng waved his hand to signal everyone to be quiet, and then asked Zheng He, "Have you found out where Wang Lao is hiding?" Zheng He replied, "We previously focused on the servants and stewards of the Wang family, but we didn't gain anything from the surveillance. In the past few days, I occasionally saw vegetable farmers delivering vegetables to the small yard behind Wang's house very diligently, so I checked. After the vegetable farmer leaves the small courtyard behind Wang's house, he will go to a large courtyard in the north of the city, where a gang of ruffians gathers. We guess that the Wang family should have a tunnel or something leading to the small courtyard at the back, and Wang Lao is hiding in the small courtyard, so as to avoid human eyes and drive the ruffians to spread rumors. But there were guards in the darkness of the small courtyard. We were afraid of alerting others, so we could only stare from a distance and did not go in to investigate." After saying that, he glanced at Mr. Wen, his voice became softer, and said, "In addition to those families, there are also people from the Wen family who are spreading rumors, who also added fuel to the fire." Mr. Wen's expression changed at that time. He wanted to curse something, but he didn't say it. Needless to say, it must have been because of his marriage that the Li family was hated together. When something happened to the Li family, the Wen family followed suit and added insult to injury. Mrs. Wen was also very angry, looking at the Li family feeling extremely guilty. The couple originally thought about how to cooperate with the Li family in dealing with the outside world and help fight back against the Wu family and the Queen. Unexpectedly, the Wen family went to help the tyrants. "Auntie." Mrs. Wen was hoarse and just about to speak when Mrs. Li waved her hand and comforted her. "It's not easy for you and your wife to get together, and we all see how they treat us all. There is no way I can blame you because of those idiots in your family. That's why you don't distinguish between inside and outside. Don't worry, we'll do whatever we want." Mrs. Wen's eyes turned red when she heard this, and Mr. Wen became more and more guilty and angry. He calmed down and said to everyone, "As of now, although some details are still unclear, such as what channels the Wang family used to convince the Wu family and the Queen that Fu Niuer's hard work can help the Queen conceive and give birth to a child. But it is certain that the Wang family is manipulating the Wu family and the Queen behind the scenes and targeting the Li family. On the surface, this seems to be an attempt to bring Fu Niuer to death, but in fact, it is a very big plan. Fu Niuer is our pampered child. If she is killed, we will avenge Fu Niuer at all costs. And the Marquis is Fu Niuer's adoptive father, so he will definitely not let the Queen and the Wu family go. But no matter how big a mistake the Queen makes, she is still the mother of a country and a member of the royal family. The Emperor has to protect both public and private matters. This will make our family and the Marquis angry and unwilling. The Emperor's heart is unpredictable. Will the Emperor suspect that the Marquis is no longer loyal and take back military power? If the military power is taken back, no one in Tianwu is suitable to take over for the time being. Without the Marquis, the Emperor will also lose his right-hand man, and his strength will be weakened. In this way, whoever benefits in the end will be the final beneficiary, and whoever is the black hand hiding the most in this matter. Such words made Li Zhensheng and Li Lao frown and think deeply. The Jiaran brothers could barely understand them. The village chief, Uncle Zhao, Mrs. Li and other women are just confused. Aren't the Queen, the Wu family, and the Wang family really the ones who want to harm the Li family? Is someone using this matter to plot against the Marquis and the Emperor? But I kept nodding my head after hearing the good news. She has also deduced it carefully in the past few days and reached the same conclusion as Mr. Wen. It can be said that killing her is just the fuse that detonates the powder keg. The real struggle is still in the court and the struggle for power. Seeing that everyone still didn't react, Ji Yin couldn't help but add something. I heard that before I was born, the Queen Mother was in charge of the court and the country was weak. If it weren't for the barbarian invasion and the court moved its capital to the south of the Yangtze River, the courtiers couldn't stand it and supported the emperor's rise to power, and the foster father also took the military power. I'm afraid the Queen Mother would also. I will not retire to Shaokong Palace. If the emperor loses the support of his adoptive father, the government may return to the hands of the Queen Mother. Everyone suddenly realized. In recent years, the word Queen Mother has rarely appeared in our ears, and has been almost forgotten by everyone in Tianwu. So, they never thought for a moment that there was such a big shot dormant in the palace. What's wrong with the Queen Mother? Can the Queen Mother kill my sister in a different way? Just when everyone was silent, the young and energetic cat brother became anxious, stood up and waved his fist fiercely. I don't care what anyone plans or what they want to do, as long as they touch my sister. If you don't have evidence, look for it. Even if you can't find it, you'll beat her back hard. They can harm my sister for no reason. Why can't we fight back? Yes, Dad, second uncle, we have to fight back, Brother Li also said firmly. Jiaran said nothing, but took 2 steps forward and stood beside his brother, silently supporting him. They can give up their career, fame, or even their lives. But no one can bully their sister. Okay, we Li family men should have such courage. Li Zhenshen began to praise his son and nephew, then turned to Li Laoer and Mr. Wen and said, they have bullied them to the front door. Our family can continue to search for evidence, but we cannot keep waiting. Even if we can't cut off the real mastermind, and we can't touch the queen, we can still fight back hard against the Wang family, the Wu family and their lackeys. Li Laoer nodded, okay, let's show these families a little bit and force them to cause chaos. Maybe more flaws will be revealed. Mr. Wen looked at Mrs. Li and others with bad expressions and said, let's go to my study and let the family rest early. Old Mrs. Li didn't stop her, she just told her, our family is not afraid of anything, you can just go ahead and make arrangements. Whether it's money or people, it's not a problem. Even if we can't kill these families, we still have to make them regret plotting against our children. Li Zhensheng and Li Laoer both responded, then took the 3 Jiaran brothers and followed Mr. Wen into the night. Knowing that they could not help, the village chief, Uncle Zhao and others arranged for villagers to strengthen patrols in and outside the village. At this time, they don't have enough brains, so they put in more effort. I sent Mrs. Wen off with the good news, and settled down with Grandma to rest. Then I went to see my 2 sisters-in-law. Finally, when I arrived at my mother's door, I saw that the lights in the house were all out. She thought that my mother was too tired to go to bed, so she went back to her room. How did you know that in the dark room, Tao Hongying was sitting on the Kong blankly, and gave herself 2 hard slaps. Her cheeks immediately became red and swollen. In the early morning of late autumn, white frost flowers quietly descended, adding a light layer of cold clothing to everything in the world. There are still some tenacious green trees in the mountain forest, and they are eagerly hoping that the sun will start working quickly to help them get rid of the cold, catch the tail of autumn, and take another look at the human world. In the backyard of Li's house, Shui Ling picked up a basin and pushed the door open when he heard some movement in the house. Ji Yan rubbed her eyes and sat up and asked, Shui Ling, what did Zhao Jian cook for breakfast this morning? She spent a lot of time in the space last night and fell asleep when she was tired. She didn't have time to eat, and the empty city in her stomach was singing wonderfully at this moment. Shui Ling looked very strange and said, well, miss, you'd better go and have a look. There's something wrong with the 4th lady. Something wrong? Ji Yan's heart skipped a beat, and she immediately woke up and got off the Kong. 2 updates today, 4 updates tomorrow. The gold-eating beast of the Huahua family was addicted to playing with his mobile phone and failed in the midterm exam. My head is buzzing with anger. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 795. Chapter 795 Sister-in-law, I need your help. After a brief wash, Ji Yan hurried to the front yard. In the main room, Tao Hongying changed into a red, gold and silver tapestry jacket, with her black hair in a single bun, a carved silver comb, and a flower-studded beeswax swaying at the back of her head. Her originally dark complexion looked much brighter after applying a layer of powder. The eyebrow color has also been carefully painted, adding 2 points of jet black, and adding a bright red lip color. It is really indescribably bright and generous. Sitting on the chair like this, just flipping through the brochure, I feel a little more dignified than usual. Mother. He stood aside with her eyebrows lowered and whispered a few words from time to time. Jiyan came over in a hurry, and when he saw his mother like this, he was stunned. Then he rushed forward and hugged his mother's arm with a smile. Mom, you are so beautiful today, you should dress like this. I have prepared so many dresses and jewelry for you, and you have packed them all at the bottom of the box. Finally, they will no longer have to be covered with pearls. Tao Hongying was actually feeling uneasy. She got up an hour early and was in this state. At this moment, her daughter's praise made her back straighter. She tidied her daughter's loose hair lovingly and said with a smile, "My mother will listen to you, dress however you like. Today's menu, Mom has already decided on it and handed it over to Shui Yun. You stay at home with Grandma. Mom is going to the city to look at the shop's account books and to visit your Aunt Lu. There is also the bird's nest from last night. Mom forgot to stew it for you. I will make up for it tonight." Jiyan guessed a bit of her mother's thoughts, and felt sour and warm in her heart, so she kept nodding her head and responded obediently, so as to avoid her mother having to worry about her when she was away. Soon, everyone in the family came over for dinner. Li Zhensheng and Li Laoer had already left early with Mr. Wen next door. At the dinner table, besides Mrs. Li and Zhao Yuru, there were the 3 Jiaran brothers. Everyone was surprised to see Tao Hongying change so much, but they didn't say anything for fear that she would feel uncomfortable. After dinner, Tao Hongying made arrangements at home and took Nanny He into the city by car. Jiyan was worried that someone would cause trouble on the road and wanted Shui Ling to go with him, but Tao Hongying refused. Jiyan stood in front of the door, feeling the cold autumn wind, and did not speak for a long time. Old Mrs. Li hugged Xing Xing and stepped forward, advising, "Don't feel bad for your mother. There are things people don't want to do in life, and things they have to do. Furthermore, your mother is not only because of you, but also because of Ngir and your father. Ngir will marry a wife in the future, and your father also needs a good wife, not a cook. Actually, not only your mother, but also your third uncle and I will also go out more in the future." Jiyan was afraid that Grandma's arms would be sore, so she took Xing Xing to hold her, took off the string of pearls on her wrist and gave it to him to play with. She tried hard to cheer up, changed her words and said with a smile, "Nai, I want to eat sugar cakes, how about a fried one at noon?" Before the old lady could respond, Xing Xing was already clapping her little chubby hands excitedly. Xing Xing also wants to eat sugar cake, eat sugar cake. Mrs. Li couldn't help but laugh, and tapped the tip of the fat boy's nose. "She is just like your aunt when she was a child, a greedy cat." Just then Mrs. Wen brought Yu Yair over. When she heard this, she said, "Auntie, give Yu Yair a piece of candy cake at noon. I want to go back to Zhuangzi today to have a look. The autumn harvest is so busy that I haven't even been back once." Of course old Mrs. Li readily agreed, and a fair and fat girl was added to the group eating candy cakes. At 3 o'clock in the morning, a pair of golden boys and girls sat side by side on the threshold of the Li family's kitchen. They are both fair and chubby. They are holding small bowls, their mouths are stained with sugar, and their little hands are greasy. Jiyan sat on a chair by the door, also holding a small bowl and eating sugar cakes, but she sighed from time to time, which made Huaniyang, who came to deliver dried mushrooms, curious and asked, "What's wrong with Funiur? Its sugar, isn't the oil cake delicious? Why are you sighing?" Jiyan looked aggrieved and replied, "Master, I have fallen out of favor. Originally, the throne on the threshold was mine, but now it has been taken away from me. A sugar cake cannot make up for my wounded heart. Mrs. Li happened to be holding a plate of sugar and oil cakes and wanted to take a plate back to Madame Hui. When she heard this, she threw one directly into her granddaughter's bowl and said angrily, "Then too." Ji Yan immediately changed his smile and said exaggeratedly, "Oh, what does it mean to fall out of favor? Why don't I know?" Everyone couldn't hold it back any longer and burst into laughter. Wanner and Wenjuan were originally in the backyard, but with so many things happening at home, they felt a little panicked, so they carried Yuan to the front yard. Just after stepping through the corner door, they suddenly heard such cheerful laughter. The two looked at each other in confusion, not understanding what happened, but their hearts felt much lighter. In the courtyard of the Lu family in Xindu. At this moment, Mrs. Lu personally went to the second door to pick up Tao Hongying, held her arm and walked in, saying with a smile, "Hongying, weren't you just busy with Yuan's full moon wine yesterday? How come you have free time to come and talk to me today?" Tao Hongying replied, "Yesterday, I heard the grandmother next to my sister-in-law say that you were not feeling well. I was thinking about it, so I happened to be in town today, so I gave my sister-in-law 2 snacks. Besides, I also have something to ask my sister-in-law to help me with." Mrs. Lu blushed a little when she heard this, and said quickly, "I don't have anything serious, I just have menstruation, I don't feel very comfortable, and I have been lying down all day." After saying that, she quickly changed her subject, "Why is it that Yuan is hosting the full moon wine? I remember our family is used to hosting 100-day celebrations. There's nothing you can do about it, just do as the Romans do when you're in the country." Tao Hongying replied nonchalantly, "We in the north are used to celebrating 100 days, but in the 2 years since we moved here, we've seen everyone celebrate the full moon, so we changed accordingly. Actually, it doesn't matter, I just want to announce to everyone that we have a big fat boy in our family come and give gifts as soon as possible." Mrs. Lu giggled at her amuse and entered the flower hall. The maid brought tea and snacks and invited Grandma He to go down and have a rest. Mrs. Lu then asked, "Hongying needs my help. If you need anything, just ask. Uncle Cai also came here just now and talked to my old lady and master for a long time. Finally, our master left with his uncle again. I was curious and asked briefly, seems something happened to our family." Tao Hongying's eyes darkened and she held Mrs. Liu's hand. "Sister-in-law, I need your help." When the sun turned to the west, the good news still hadn't waited for her mother to come back from the city. She was a little worried, so she went to the entrance of the village to visit. Just as Yeshan and Dongmei came back from outside, they saw their master and went forward to report it. Yeshan said, "Princess, all the errands you ordered have been completed." So fast, Ji Yan was a little surprised. She felt angry no matter how much she thought about it last night. Even though Grandma didn't want her to take action or take revenge herself, she still planned to try her best to protect herself. Teach the enemy a lesson without revealing the secret. For example, you took out the old money of the Wu family and the Wang family. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 796. Chapter 796, Returning with a Full Load. Yashan and Dongmei received the order, dropped everything and left. I didn't expect that things would be done so smoothly. Yashan said, "Princess, the Wu family is the mother family of the queen, and no one dares to provoke her, so the 2 farms are not strictly guarded. This year's new harvest plus the old grain stored in the previous 2 years has reached 100,000 dan, but the total number of guards is less than 30. The Wang family is a family that has been here for hundreds of years. There are 3 large farms with twice as much food as the Wu family. Each has a guard of 100 people, but it's not difficult to get in. Okay, Uncle Shan and Aunt May, you go and rest first. When the time comes in the next few days, I will trouble you to accompany me. Ji Yun's eyes were so bright that Yashin and Dong Mei both laughed. This kind of princess is what they like the most. They are the men left by the marquis to the princess, and they have followed them loyally in the past few years. To be honest, they know the princess's temperament and abilities better than the Li family. If the princess takes action, the Wang family and the Wu family will definitely fall hard. At this time, 4 carriages came from a distance, and the one leading them was our own carriage. Ji Yun was confused. After all, there was only a carriage when mother left. Soon, the carriage arrived. Tao Hongying opened the window and called to her daughter, "Silly girl, why are you drinking here? Let's go home with my mother." Hey, it was rare for Ji Yun to see her mother look so high-spirited. She picked up her skirt and jumped onto the carriage. The carriage ran another dozen feet and stopped in front of Li's house. Tao Hongying and Nanny He got out of the car, and the 3 carriages behind them also opened their doors, and a group of maids, women, and boys came out one after another. Ji Yun was surprised. She thought that my mother had bought a lot of things, but she didn't expect that she was actually a slave. Tao Hongying took her daughter in, leaving Grandma He to greet the maids and women. Old Mrs. Li was calling Wan'er and Wenjuan to help her. She was calculating the accounts of Gong Zhong in the main room. She heard a lot of commotion outside and looked outside the door. Just in time to see Tao Hongying come back, she smiled and said, "Aren't you so happy playing outside today that you forgot to go home?" Tao Hongying smiled and stepped forward to salute her mother-in-law, then sat next to her and said, "Mom, I have done a few big things today, and you are counting on your family's money. Please give me a few hundred taels." After saying that, she ordered the water spirit at the door. "Go and see where the third lady is and ask her to speak." Shui Ling quickly ran to the backyard and invited Zhao Yuru over. Zhao Yuru turned the corner gate and walked across from the large group of people who entered the courtyard. She was also startled. When she entered the house and met her younger siblings, she asked, "Hongying, did you bring back all the people outside?" "Yes," Tao Hongying said, "I will have to go out frequently in the future, and there is only Shui Yun in the kitchen at home, so I will be a little busy. Furthermore, Shui Yun is Fu Niuer's maid, and the family cannot and will always occupy her. So, I went to visit sister-in-law Lu today and wanted her to introduce some familiar middlemen and buy some people who had no foundation. As a result, sister-in-law Liu's family just bought a new batch of people. They were taught the rules and could sign death certificates, so they were given to me directly. I went to the Marquis mansion to see the chief steward again, hoping to borrow some of the people in the sewing room. As a result, the chief steward heard that I was buying slaves, so he gave me 3 embroiderers and a housekeeper. Old Mrs. Li is not opposed to adding slaves to the family. In the past, the family was not used to having to take care of everything, but now that 2 children have been added to the family, eating, drinking and dressing are a big project, and it is simply too busy to do it yourself. In addition, there are more people in the family. Not only did Li Zhensheng and Li Laoer have friends and colleagues to socialize with, but the Jiaran brothers also had classmates and friends come to visit. If Shui Ling and Shui Yun were not there, the family would have to serve tea and snacks in person, which would make the guests surprised and frightened. Now that we have so many people, it's not like there is no one available. But Tao Hongying went out and directly picked the peaches from 2 families. Isn't it a little too rude? Mrs. Lu and the housekeeper gave their manpower to you, and you just continued, Mrs. Li scolded. Tao Hongying also blushed, but still said, "Mom, sister-in-law of the Lu family said that our family is special. If someone deliberately squeezes in, it will easily cause trouble for the family." She picked these people up for her own use. No one expected that they would be suddenly transferred to our house, so they are safer. As for the housekeeper, he said that the Marquis is not at home all the year round, and Funiu rarely goes there recently. It is really not cost-effective for the mansion to keep staff in vain and to pay monthly payments. Let's split up a few of our families to relieve the Ho's mansion burdened. And these few people are all doing needlework. Originally, the biggest errand was to help our family, but it saves us the trouble later. Mrs. Lee couldn't laugh or cry when she heard this. Jian was happy and said with a smile, "Uncle, the housekeeper is so kind. Next time you go there, I must remember to bring him more delicious food." Since both her daughter-in-law and granddaughter are like this, Mrs. Lee naturally cannot stop her. Hence, the steward of the home mansion named Chang was assigned to serve beside the old lady. Wanner and Wenjuan each have maids, but they are also assigned a servant to help make the children's clothes and shoes. Zhao Yuru didn't want any help, but the old lady persuaded her to hire an embroiderer. From now on, she would have someone to accompany her in Luoan to do needlework. Tao Hongying made up her mind to go out frequently in the future, so she left behind a nanny and a maid who were specially recommended by Mrs. Liu. This grandma's surname is Lin, and the maid's name is Xiaocheng. I heard that she comes from a scholarly family in Sichuan Prefecture for a century. They were all originally serving the wife of the head of the family, but for unknown reasons the main family suffered a disaster and everyone in the family was killed. They escaped because they went out to offer incense for the wife, but were later sold and moved to the Liu family. Mrs. Liu already had trustworthy women and maids around her. It was difficult to arrange for them, and she was reluctant to bury such talents, so she just gave them to Tao Hongying. Mother Lin and Xiaoqing are also smart people. Tao Hongying has no one around her to help. As long as they are loyal, they will definitely be able to earn a stable future for themselves. So, as soon as Mrs. Liu asked them, they quickly followed her. There are 14 people left, 7 maids and 7 boys, all only a little over 10 years old. After seeing it, Mrs. Li felt a little pity for them, so she gave half of it to the princess mansion. The rest stay at home and help out with running errands, sweeping the yard, doing laundry, etc. In this way, the few young wives temporarily hired by the village no longer need to come. Tao Hongying gave them half a month's extra wages, and another person gave them a piece of material, and they went home happily. Wanner named her maid Wan Kaiu, while Wenjuan followed Xiaoyu and named her maid Xiaodong. Zhao Yuru's maid was called Qiao, and she was indeed very clever, so she didn't change her name. Tao Hongying, on the other hand, did not have that free time, so she also asked Granny Lin and Xiaoqing to keep their original names. There are suddenly so many people in the house, so we can't arrange to live with the Ye family and the Wen family anymore. So, Tao Hongying went to see Mrs. Wen at night. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 797. Chapter 797. Don't underestimate the Li family. When the courtyard was first built, the courtyards of the Li family and the Marquis shared the middle courtyard wall. However, the Wen family left a 5-foot wide open space in the middle in case there were no more people to live in, and they added more houses. Now the Wen family only has one more baby, Yu Yaer, but the Li family really can't live in it anymore. Therefore, Tao Hongying planned to occupy this area and build a row of west-facing huts, which could be divided into at least a dozen rooms, enough to accommodate new people. Mrs. Wen treated the Li family like her husband's family. How could she care about such a trivial matter? She agreed immediately. Even if Tao Hongying wanted to give her 200 taels of silver, she refused to accept it. After all, the Li family helped build their yard, and the open space was also set aside by the Li family. At this point, the matter is settled. At this time, all the fruits in the mountains have been picked, and the radishes and cabbages in the fields can still last for half a month. The village chief and Uncle Zhao heard that the Li family was going to build an additional house, so they took the villagers into action quickly. The villagers of Dawangzhuang, Xiaoangzhuang, and Daweisha village heard about it and wanted to send people to help, but the village chief politely refused. There are still people outside who are eyeing the Li family. If bad guys sneak in, the gains will outweigh the losses. Not to mention that the Li family has started vigorous infrastructure construction again, but that in the study room in the front yard of the Wang family, Wang Zekin was sitting at the table drinking tea, his brows furrowed like iron knots. He picked up the tea bowl several times and put it down again, feeling extremely restless. Opposite him sat a thin man in grey clothes and a quilted gown. His whole body was like a shadow. Even if the late autumn sun set, he couldn't help but walk around. Wang Zekin couldn't hold his breath and asked in a low voice, "Second brother, the Wu family's first attack was unsuccessful. When do you think they will make a second attack?" "Yes, this thin man in grey is none other than Wang Zekin, the second master of the Wang family." He smiled faintly and said with a cold expression, "Brother, why are you so anxious? Sitting on a mountain and watching tigers fight, you can't be impatient." Wang Zekin dislikes his brother's appearance the most, as if everyone is stupid and only he is superior and in control of everything. He was impatient to get angry again, and kindly reminded him, "I know you always think that I am clumsy and can't fight against those idiots from the Li family. But I still want to remind you that the Li family's transformation from refugees fleeing famine to becoming a wealthy family is definitely not all due to luck. Don't underestimate the Li family. You think you have a chance to win, only to be tricked by others in the end." Wang Zekin still replied in a nonchalant manner, "Don't worry, brother, your example is before me, how could I not be careful?" Wang Zekin's head was filled with smoke. He wanted to say something else, but a senior attendant knocked on the door and hurriedly delivered an official document. "Sir, the official document from the Ministry of Personnel has been delivered to the house." "Official documents from the Ministry of Personnel?" Wang Zekin stopped arguing, with doubts in their eyes. Wang Zekin has done a good job and can't find any faults. Naturally, it is impossible for him to be suddenly transferred or dismissed from office. Wang Zekin even asked for sick leave. If he didn't cancel the leave and use human relations, there would be no new errands. The two brothers quickly opened the official document. After reading it, Wang Zekin's face turned dark. Although Wang Zekin also frowned, seeing his brother's appearance, he actually felt happy in his heart, so he said, "The Li family should never be underestimated." "You don't believe it? Do you understand this time? I forced you from the dark to the bright side with one move. You don't have to hide anymore. You can go out at will." Wang Zekin threw away the official document and spread it out on the table. There was no need to cancel the leave or use any favors. He had a new official position. He was a doctor under the Yamen of the Ministry of Industry. From now on, he would lead the craftsmen to study new farm tools. His mind quickly started to spin, and he quickly figured it out. He sneered, "I have to say that the Li family is indeed very capable." Unexpectedly, the Ministry of Civil Affairs and the Ministry of Works were able to move at the same time and pinned me down in a small government office where nothing could be done. But why is the eldest brother so happy? I am from the Wang family, and I have made every possible effort to avenge the third child and to support the Wang family. If my plan fails, then there will be no benefit to the eldest brother, the eldest son of the prince, right? Wang Zekin was choked and finally closed his mouth. Wang Zekin snorted coldly, poured himself another cup of tea, and said, "The Li family's first move is to dig me out. Instead of sending people to kill me, they plan to fight head-on. That's fine, because the Wu family and the queen are in front of me, and I still have time to rearrange, but it's just a dark move that becomes an open move." Wang Zekin saw that his brother had become his original appearance again, and he couldn't bear to listen anymore, so he made an excuse and left. Wang Zekin was left silent for a long time, and smashed the tea bowl in his hand. The transition from darkness to light was not as light as what he just said, and it almost ruined all his subsequent arrangements. But thinking about a certain helper, he gained a little more confidence. 3 or 4 days passed in the blink of an eye. At the small construction site east of the Li family, all the young and old men in the village gathered together. The weather in early September of the lunar calendar is cold in the mornings and evenings, but still somewhat warm during the day. Especially when doing work, it gets even hotter. Therefore, many men took off their jackets and wore only their undershirts, carrying wood and stones back and forth in full swing. Seeing that the sun was reaching above the head, the village chief waved the pipe and shouted to everyone, "Everyone, take a rest and wash your hands. We will eat soon." Hearing the sound, everyone quickly gathered up their work, put on their jackets, and gathered together talking and laughing. Having grown up, he had already carried hot water and put it into a temporary grass shed. The village chief greeted several invited masters, washed his hands first, and then sat at the table to drink tea. After the rest of the villagers also washed their hands, the maids and boys came over with large pottery basins. In the earthenware basin are 2 main dishes, chicken stewed with mushrooms and braised pork stewed with potatoes. The staple food is white flour steamed buns. The villagers each had a large set of bowls to fill with vegetables and a few white flour steamed buns, and soon their mouths were full of oil. There are 6 dishes and a basin of white rice placed on the wooden table. The village chief and several masters also started eating. There was a master who liked to joke and said, "Brother Wu, what we look forward to most is to work for your village. If nothing else, we all get along well and don't find faults, so we have a comfortable job. The most important thing is that the food is so good it's only been a few days, and my mother-in-law says I've gained a lot of weight." The other masters also agreed one after another. "Yes, Brother Wu, if there is work in the village from now on, we will definitely be called upon. We don't need wages, just food. After eating our food, when I get home I feel that my wife's cooking skills are only worthy of feeding pigs." The village chief was coaxed into laughing and asked everyone to eat more. "Haha, you guys can eat more if you like. Speaking of which, I really have plans to ask you to make 2 more trips to our village in the future. The year before last, the young people in our village had 5 or 6 children, and now they have another family, and they still have to marry wives. But every house is no longer habitable. Next spring, I'm afraid many more houses will be built in the village." End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 798. Chapter 798. Yashi Wen is crazy. When the masters heard this, they were even more happy. "This was just a joke, but I didn't expect it to be a big business." After dinner, everyone took a short break and then continued their work. The village chief slowly walked into the Li family's yard and saw everyone in the Li family eating in the main room, with 2 little maids waiting in front of the door. There was a small square table set up under the eaves of the corridor. Ji Yanzhen held a box and ate potato chips, shouting something from time to time. "Oh, stars and crescent moon, have you hidden them? I'm going to start looking for them." Xing, who was wearing royal blue clothes and pants, hid her head under the bedding that was hanging to dry, revealing her chubby little body, and shouted loudly, "Hidden, Auntie, come to me quickly." Yu Yair, in a red dress and skirt, squatted behind the door. She covered her face with her little chubby hands and responded with a tender voice, "Yu Yair is also hidden, sister can't find her." So Jiyan got up, walked and ate, and began his journey of pretending to be blind. "Oh, stars and crescent moons, where are you? Why can't I find you? You have hidden it too well, how come you can't find it? What should I do? I can't find you." The fat boy and the fat girl heard the footsteps and passed by him, but they were not caught. "I think I hid it cleverly, tightly, and happily." The village chief stood at the door, his gray beard trembling with a smile. Seeing that Ji-yin had eaten all the potato chips in the box, he walked in and knocked Ji-yin on the forehead with a smile. "You have found a playmate, and you will bully the child if you catch him." Ji-yin smiled brightly and protested, "The village chief has wronged me. I finished my meal early and was busy coaxing the children." Uer and Sing heard the noise and ran out, clapping their hands and shouting together. "Auntie didn't catch us, we won." Unfortunately, when they saw that the box in Ji-yin's hand was empty, they immediately wrinkled their faces and began to accuse. "Auntie, you secretly eat potato chips. We agreed that you can only eat them if you win." The fat boy's eyes were red. The fat girl also pursed her lips and said, "Sister is bad, and her words don't count." Ji-yin blinked his big eyes twice and quickly held his head to pretend to be weak. "Oops, I just had a headache, and I wanted to eat when I had a headache, then I accidentally ate all the potato chips. I'm sorry, crescent moon and stars, I was wrong." The fat girl and the fat boy were startled, and quickly hugged Ji-yin's arms and tried their best to blow air on her head. "Auntie, the stars are shining for you." "Sister, the crescent moon is whirring, it doesn't hurt." Ji-yin smiled brightly, hugged the two fat children, and kissed them hard. "Oh, the whirring of the stars and the crescent moon work so well, my head stopped hurting immediately, but the potato chips are still gone, so I'll have to eat them next time. In this case, I will take you to the greenhouse to pick strawberries and make strawberry cake for you, okay?" "Okay," the two children responded in unison. Thinking of the soft and sweet cake, they were so happy that they immediately threw the potato chips behind their heads. Ji-yin said something to the family members in the house, then took the children one by one and left. Shui Ling and Shui Yun followed immediately. The village chief uncle entered the house and said with a smile, "When I first met the princess, she was smaller than the stars and the crescent moon, and the whole village liked to coax her to play. In a blink of an eye, the princess can help the family soothe the children. No. Looking at the children, I feel that the days are passing too fast." Mrs. Li also had a smile on her face, and she greeted the village chief and sat aside. Tao Hongying went to the city. In order to keep her daughter at home, she also took over the affairs of Bianjian and was very busy every day. And Zhao Yuru also brought the new maid back to the small town of Luoan. The three Grn brothers went to attend a friend's birthday party and were not at home. So, today Wanner and Wenjuan took up the trivial matters, hurriedly greeted the little maids to clean the table, and served tea and snacks to the old lady and the village chief. Tao Hongying's two apprentices are currently in charge of cooking in the kitchen. They both signed death deeds in cyclamen. They are trustworthy and have good craftsmanship. Old Mrs. Li had just eaten something that tasted good, and now she asked the master chef and villagers outside how they were eating. The village chief was of course full of praise, and then discussed with the old lady the expansion of the village next year. Elderly people like to have a prosperous life with children and grandchildren. Mrs. Li immediately agreed and asked the village chief to make arrangements with each family to calculate how many families needed to build new houses. After the Northern Expeditionary Army returns, Li Yong will have nothing to do and help the village plan. It's not that he doesn't feel sorry for Li Yong, but he likes it. If it weren't for his family's pressure, he might be the top craftsman in Tianwu now. Unfortunately, fate is a wonderful thing and it often does not develop in the direction that everyone likes. Not to mention that the Li family is busy here, but that the next day is another big court meeting. Everyone thought it would be like the past, with the 6 departments bringing up a bunch of trivial matters, bickering with each other, and getting over it. After all, the truly important government affairs would have been dealt with long ago by the 6 ministers meeting individually to see the emperor. If it comes to a big court meeting, everyone will be talking about it and everyone has their own thoughts. I am afraid that there will be no result in a year of quarrel. Even the emperor was sitting on the dragon throne, looking a little bored. Fortunately, The autumn that just passed was a bumper harvest. There is always no shortage of people in the court who are good at singing praises. A few of them would make the emperor smile. Just when the atmosphere was harmonious and everyone was distracted and starting to think about what to eat for lunch, Yushi Wen stood up and said loudly, "Your Majesty, I have my own instructions. The Zhongning Marquis mansion is committing murder and robbing people. Female, killed a family of 5. In addition, the Marquis of Zhongning embezzled 500 acres of people's land, causing more than 100 people to become homeless and have nowhere to live. I have here the petitions of the victims, and I would like your Majesty to take a look at them." There was a complete silence in the court hall, and some people even had no time to take back the smiles on their faces. After all, I was still happy 1 second, but why did I switch to the mode of complaining and redressing grievances the next second? Furthermore, the defendant is still the Zhongning Haofu, the Queen's mother clan. Is this Yushi Wen crazy? Even if you want to establish a good reputation for yourself as someone who is not afraid of the powerful and upright, you can't choose the Queen's mother clan for surgery. The emperor also frowned slightly and motioned to manager Yi to bring up the paper. He glanced through it quickly and then darkened his face. Jianning Shizi, the Queen's father, was also shocked at this moment. It is not only true that the son raped the daughter of the people and the family occupied the people's land. More importantly, it was Wen Qinglin who came forward to report. Who in Tianwu doesn't know that Wen Qinglin is almost half a son of the Li family? The 2 dead men at home have not returned in the past few days, which obviously indicates that the mission has failed. He felt sorry for the injured dead soldier, but he was not too worried. After all, dead soldiers will commit suicide if they fail in their mission, and they will definitely not expose themselves. But what's going on with Wen Qinglin now? Didn't the dead man commit suicide and was caught? He gritted his teeth with hatred and panic, but he quickly knelt down and shouted in justice, "Your Majesty, I have been wronged. The ministers and their family have kept their duties and have never done anything to violate the laws of Tianwu, let alone live up to the emperor's favor." Wen Yushi sneered and said directly, "Master Wu, are you saying that I have framed your family? I have no grievances with Mr. Wu, so why should I wrongly accuse you?" "Of course it's for." Mr. Wu was about to retort, but swallowed it back in the middle of the sentence. Fourth update, the debt owed yesterday has been repaid. Have a great weekend, guys, I'll go to work tomorrow, keep up the hard work. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 799. Chapter 799. What a magical day today is. For what reason, Lord Wu, let me tell you, Yushi Wen said with a cold look on his face. Is it possible that Lord Wu has a guilty conscience? When he goes out and encounters the sufferer, he thinks that something has happened and wants to beat him up. You are so impudent, you are the thief. Mr. Wu's face turned red with anger and he shouted back. The emperor was sitting on the dragon throne, and he also guessed that there was some dispute between the Wu family and the Wen family. However, Yushi Wen inherited the behavior of the great scholar Kui, who was not afraid of power and upright. If there was no solid evidence, he would not bring it up in court today. Obviously, his father-in-law is definitely not as honest as he appears on the surface, and he may be using his name to bully the people secretly. Thinking like this, his face became even worse. Just as he was about to speak, another thin censor stood up and said loudly, "Your Majesty, I also have a memorial." Everyone looked over subconsciously, feeling extremely surprised and curious. What a magical day it is today, the ordinary court meeting is really lively. This thin censor did not let everyone wait, and said directly, Wen Junyan of Honglu Temple used his power to bully the people and forcefully bought the ink workshops of the people in Anyang, causing the owner of the ink workshop to hang himself. Anyang County Magistrate Hu Dongsheng and Wen Qinglan and Wen Yushi were classmates who County Magistrate helped suppress the matter for personal gain, so that the Mofang master and his family had no way to redress their grievances. Everyone knows about this incident in the local area. It has damaged the prestige of the government. It is really a heinous crime. I ask the emperor to clearly understand and thoroughly investigate Wen Junyan's crimes of oppressing the people and Wen Qinglan and Hu Dongshen's cover-up. The courtiers were so surprised that they couldn't close their mouths when they heard it from beginning to end. This is really true. The mantis stalks the cicada while the oriole follows behind. As soon as Yushi Wen took action against the Wu family, someone jumped out and sued the Wen family as well. Winter has not yet completely arrived. Are you planning to dip the candied haws in the court? The emperor also subconsciously straightened his back and turned cold. Wen Junyan was still watching the play, but the flames of war burned him out of nowhere. Thinking of the few boxes of newly delivered ink sticks in the study room, beads of sweat fell from his forehead. In recent years, the second brother has been very popular in the court, but he, the fourth-rank official of Honglu Temple, is as dispensable as a shadow. He was extremely depressed, so he would occasionally take a long vacation and go for a walk outside. 6 months ago, he went to Anyang County in the south and took a fancy to an ink shop. He wanted to buy it, but the owner said it was a family-owned craft and refused to sell it at any price. In a fit of anger, he used some tricks to force the owner of Mofang to death, and then the orphans and widowers of that family sued the county government. He went to Anyang County to visit the government office and wanted to make some inquiries, only to find out that the county magistrate was a classmate and friend of his second brother, and he often came in and out of his home back then. As a result, things immediately went much smoother. The county magistrate came forward and he provided the money, and finally Mofang fell into his hands. The wife and children of the former owner of Mofang swallowed their anger and returned to their hometown. Everything was done perfectly, without any mistakes or omissions. Moreover, almost every household in Zindu has done this. Of the many shops and farms outside the city, how many of their original owners were willing to sell their property to outsiders? He just took over a small ink shop. Why was it discovered again after such a long time? Wen Junyan's legs weakened and he almost rolled out of the queue. He knelt down and shouted, "Your Majesty, I am wronged. I did buy an ink shop before, but it is a legitimate business and there is absolutely no such thing as killing someone." Before the emperor could speak, the thin censor spoke again. "Lord Wen, are you saying that I have framed you? I have no grievances against Lord Wen, so why should I wrongly accuse you?" These words sound so familiar. This is what Yushi Wen asked Mr. Wu just now. It didn't take half a minute to make a cup of tea, but it was returned. Wen Junyan's eyes were as wide as those of a cow, and he looked at his brother fiercely, wishing he could eat him alive. Over the years, the family has not borrowed any help from him, but now because he offended others, he was retaliated at the speed of light. Master Wu looked at the courtiers in confusion, not knowing who was helping at such a critical moment, but he was still extremely happy and proud in his heart. He sneered and asked Censor Wen, "Mr. Wen, as censor, you have received favor from the emperor, but your family has made such a big mistake. How can you stand here and accuse me of unfounded charges?" It's a pity that Yushi Wen's expression didn't change at all. He saluted directly to the emperor on the dragon throne and said frankly, "Your Majesty, I am the censor of Tianwu, and my duty is to maintain the majesty of Tianwu's laws and maintain the integrity and fairness of the court. I impeached the Wu family because the Wu family did make mistakes and should be punished, not because of personal grudges. In addition, I have severed all ties with the Wen family a few years ago, except for the genealogy, and joined the Kui family. Now that I am the Kui family's son-in-law, I cannot manage the Wen family, nor am I qualified to do so. If Mr. Wen really forcibly buys people's mofang and causes people to die unjustly, he should be investigated carefully and punished according to the law. The so-called prince who breaks the law is guilty of the same crime as the common people. The Wen family is no exception, and the Wu family is no exception. His words were loud and upright, and the emperor and some old ministers nodded lightly. That's how a censor should be. Monitor the affairs of the world, speak out for injustice at all times, and be fearless. The skinny censor felt a little guilty and subconsciously shrank his neck. Mr. Wu is also anxious and frightened. Could it be? Even if the reinforcements came to drag the Wen family into trouble, couldn't they stop Yu Shiwen from attacking the Wu family? Wen Junyan was so angry that he almost spit out a mouthful of blood. His brain suddenly twitched and he wanted to scold his brother, but in the end, an official from the Ministry of Personnel stood up. Your Majesty, the former Japanese minister received an official document from Anyang County, and the Anyang County magistrate reported that Wen Junyan of Honglu Temple forcibly bought the mofang, causing the unjust death of the people. The Anyang County magistrate has investigated for several months, and now all the witnesses and material evidence are available. But my old illness relapsed, and I was delayed for 2 days without writing a memorial. I didn't expect that this matter would be involved today. It was all my fault for asking the emperor to punish me, and it almost caused an innocent and good official like Anyang County magistrate to be charged with covering up. After saying this, he knelt down with guilt on his face. The whole court fell completely silent because of a few words from this official. The monarch and his ministers, a total of 100 people together, seemed to be tossed up and down in the wind and waves, and were once thrown to the beach. To be honest, those who are less intelligent still haven't figured it out yet. Yu Shiwen sued the Wu family. Another censor sued the Wen family. The Wu family is crying out for injustice. The Wen family is crying out for injustice. The Ministry of Civil Affairs came forward to pick out the Anyang County magistrate who was involved. But the Queen's own father couldn't pick it out? Brother Wen Yushi couldn't pick it out? Snapped. The emperor couldn't bear it anymore. He slapped the table with a stern expression and yelled loudly, "How outrageous! What a mess you have made of a fine court!" All the courtiers, regardless of their thoughts, immediately knelt down and were extremely submissive. The emperor took a deep breath and ordered to cut the knot quickly. The Ministry of Punishment and Dali Temple jointly investigated Wu Jiaqiang's robbery of women and occupation of people's fields and Wen Junyan's forced purchase of mofang, and reported it as soon as possible. I want to know the truth. If anyone conceals it for personal gain, he will be punished with the same crime. In addition, all the personnel involved in the case have been suspended from their posts and are waiting for the results of the investigation to be dealt with together. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 800. Chapter 800. This melon is big and sweet. After saying that, he glanced at General Manager Yi, who immediately shouted, "Retreat." The emperor got up and left, leaving the courtiers in the room looking at each other in confusion. It took a long time before he got up. Wen Junyan couldn't bear it any longer, so he stepped forward and pulled his brother's sleeves and cursed, "Wen Qinglin, you killed me. You should handle the trouble you caused. If you dare to cause trouble to me, I won't forgive you." Wen Yushi frowned and flicked his sleeves. He didn't care that Wen Junyan almost fell down and said coldly, "Master Wen, what nonsense are you talking about? If you didn't buy and sell by force and harm people's lives, what are you afraid of? Go home and think about your past behind closed doors. I believe that the Ministry of Punishment and Dali Temple will definitely restore your innocence." After saying that, he gathered Li Laoer, Luz Haiheng, and others, and Shi Shiren walked away. Wen Junyan was so angry that he couldn't help it. He just wanted to go home quickly and ask his father for advice. There is never a secret at the feet of the emperor. In Zindu, the original people and those who were relocated now have a population of tens of thousands. They usually spend their free time doing things in the palace and court. Such a big conflict occurred at the court meeting. After the courtiers had eaten their fill, they would definitely have to talk to their relatives and friends after returning home. After all, this melon is so sweet. So, in less than half a day, the whole city was like a kettle sitting on the stove, with red buttocks, whistling in the mouth, and boiling the pot lively. Have you heard? A royal censor sued Jiangnanghao mansion. Next to a carriage waiting for customers on the street, the driver with his sleeves raised his arms to wipe his nose with his sleeves, and chatted with the vendor selling steamed buns. The bun vendor knew better than he did and immediately replied, "Of course I have heard that the censor's surname is Wen. He was the one who committed a crime that year and was imprisoned. Their family immediately threw him out of the house." "Ah, it turned out to be him. Didn't I remember that this man got married immediately after he was released from prison? At that time, I thought this man had a stubborn temper, but I didn't expect him to be so courageous." The coachman's eyes were shining, and he continued in a low voice, "This time he is suing the Queen's mother's family. I heard that he is suing the Queen's brother for robbing people's daughters, and suing the Queen's father for occupying people's fields. Yes, let's complain in front of the Emperor. Why didn't he think about it? He is the Emperor's brother-in-law and father-in-law." The bun seller was also very impressed and clicked his tongue. "To poor people like them, those noble people are as if they live in heaven, out of reach. Now that I suddenly heard that these noble people were going to be unlucky, everyone felt a little indescribably excited. Some people came over to buy steamed buns. I heard them talking and bit into the steamed buns to join in the discussion. I'm afraid the Wen family will be angry to death. Wen Yushi has offended people, and they can't find anything wrong with Wen Yushi, but they have caught the Wen family's tail. This is really a fire at the door and the fish in the pond is stewed." "Ha ha," the coachman laughed and shouted, "this is like a fire at the city gate, which will affect the fish in the pond. I heard the boy studying next door said it." The bun-eating guest blushed and waved his hands pretending not to care. "No matter what you say, it's just that, none of those wealthy families have a clean butt. The Emperor is angry this time. We need to investigate carefully. The Wu family and the Wen family will definitely be in trouble." The cart driver and the hawker both nodded, and the cart driver secretly gloated, "It doesn't matter who is unlucky, it doesn't matter to us, we can still make a few pennies every day to keep ourselves full." In the restaurant not far away, various private rooms were also discussing this matter. However, the status are different, and the focus is also different. Different from the common people, their affairs are none of their own business and should be ignored. Each wealthy family is more concerned about why Yushi Wen suddenly attacked the Queen's mother clan, and who arranged the backup to surround Wen and save Wu. Yushi Wen has been very fair and even a bit rigid in his behavior since he entered the court. Is it really because the Wu family made a mistake this time and fell into his hands? A middle-aged scribe asked with a frown. The old man sitting opposite him shook his head, "I don't know. Although Wen Qinglin is a disciple of Grand Scholar Kui, he is much more tactful than Grand Scholar Kui, and he will not fail to assess the situation. Even if the queen is not favored by the emperor, she is still the head wife and the mistress of the country. Yushi Wen is so indifferent and attacks the Wu family. It must be the Wu family who has provoked Yushi Wen." The middle-aged scribe frowned and said doubtfully, "That's impossible. After Wen Yushi joined Kui's family a few years ago, he got a daughter. I heard that the couple was harmonious and the family was peaceful, and there was no news of any misfortune. Where did the Wu family offend him and make him attack so ruthlessly?" The old man couldn't guess, so he turned to say, "The censor who sued Wen Junyan for forcibly buying Mo Fang is not usually a strong-willed person. This sudden attack is also hard for people to see through." Both of them shook their heads, picked up their tea bowls, and swallowed all their doubts. At the same moment, in the study of Zhongshan Bafu, dinner had just been served. Li Zhenshen was worried about the village. After knowing the outcome of the court meeting, he went home to take charge. So, only Mr. Wen, Li Laoer and Luz Haiheng were left, together with Jiaran and Jiawen, all sitting around eating and talking. Jiaran asked, "Teacher, is the censor who sued Mr. Wen a member of the Wang family?" Mr. Wen nodded. "I am afraid that most people would not have guessed this." When this censor was taking the scholar examination, Mrs. Wang had not resigned from office and retired. He occasionally gave guidance on this person's studies, which can be regarded as half a teacher. After this man became a Jinshi, he rose to prominence, and he also had contributions from the Wang family, but the Wang family deliberately concealed it, and the involvement was very deep. When I was studying abroad in my early years, I met a friend. He was a classmate of the censor, and we talked a few words about him while drinking. After I became an official, I had nothing to do and paid special attention, and I did find many clues. I just didn't expect that this time the Wang family would not hesitate to expose this person in order to deal with our family. Li Laoer also laughed when he heard this. Wang Laoer, who was behind the plan, has not been in Beijing for many years. I'm afraid he doesn't know that your family has broken up, let alone your behavior style. He thought that if the Wen family threatens you, you will. I panicked and let the Wu family go. Mr. Wen sighed and smiled bitterly. My brother's behavior has become more and more ridiculous in recent years, but he is not a child anymore. Since he has made a big mistake, he should bear the responsibility. Don't say that the Wang family intends to use this to coerce me into letting the Wu family go. Even under normal circumstances, I will not shield or condone him in oppressing the people just because he is my brother. Luz Haiheng raised his hand to refill the drinks for the two of them and said, "After I get home, I have to talk to my old man and write a letter to my brother who is away. Don't think that as the mountain is high and the emperor is far away, you have no scruples in doing things. If someone catches you, not only will you be unlucky, but you will also bring trouble to your family." Li Laoer also told Jiaran and Jiawen, "Life at home is easy now, and there is no shortage of money and supplies. You must think twice when doing things outside, and never do anything wrong out of greed." Jiaran and Jiawen quickly stood up and responded. End of this chapter.